I'm Amy Spain Duncan. I am an alcoholic. What a weekend this has been, right? I mean, geez, oh, Pete. These are my heroes, you know. And to be counted among them is just takes the breath out of my body. And I always like to say, God has given me his best. And I hope that when you look at your recovery and you look at your home group and you look at your sponsor and you look at the people that are walking in front of you, you recognize that God has given you his best. You know, and we need to, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I came in here just so badly mangled. I mean, beaten under state of reasonableness, like I'm a low bottom drunk. The reason I was going back to that homeless shelter where Rachel was because that's the homeless shelter I got sober in, and as an act of service, right? And to always remember how Katie talked about it today, 17 years and seeing a Heineken, right? And there was a lady that used to come to that homeless shelter, and she was in bad health, and it was difficult for her to get out of her house and come. It was Miss Darlene, and Miss Darlene had 16 years of sobriety, and she would say, you know why I get up and come to this meeting after 16 years? And, I'm like, no, Darlene, I mean, good God, you could stay home. Because, when you don't have any time, 16 years, I was like, you were sober with Bill, right? Right? And she said, because if I sit home by myself, my phone will ring. And it's alcoholism. And he's real sly. He's insidious. And he'll say, hey, babe, what you doing? So I have to stay treating my disease. But I heard what these people were telling me. Like, finally, my ears opened up. I was willing to listen. Something cracked open inside of me. And I had this gift of desperation, right? And so I was just desperate to hear what you had to say and try to apply that in my life. And things didn't make sense. I didn't understand. I can get in the deep end real quick, and I don't belong there. I'm not a good swimmer. I have to stay in foot to pavement action, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Because I've not developed that way. I can't. I was telling Curtis yesterday at lunch, I got in the deep end. I started reading like Brene Brown and Eckhart Tolle and, like these great spiritualists. And it's like, you got to be the watcher of the watcher and know that you are not your thoughts. But be careful, because your thought will come in and tell you that that's your thought, but it's not your thought. You're the ego. And I'm like, fuck. What I'm going to do is go to detox and pick up a woman and take her to a meeting. I haven't graduated there yet, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be in the deep end too long. I'll get crazy and start twitching again. So I love step 12 because it embodies that there are 3 legacies. Here they all are, and Larry did such a great job. He said, we're starting to turn. Right? So we're this way, and we're talking about our relationship with God, and we're talking about ourselves and our inventory and our character defects and our shortcomings, and then 8 and 9 we start turning. Right? But I haven't made a 180 yet, have I? And so I got to keep turning. And that's 10, 11, and 12. So now my life is different. I've turned completely around. Right? Every speaker, they've done such a great job. Guys, I'm not a teacher. I think that it would be very arrogant for me to think that with my big 13 years, let me tell you how AA is supposed to work. You're better off to listen to the other speakers. But I can give you some experience as I've understood it. And when I hear these men and women who've done this thing so long, and I think about they were once where I was. That's the hit. Remember that. I have to remind myself. Bob Darrell had 13 years of sobriety once, and it was only a few years earlier he hired a hitman. It's very comforting to me, Bob. Thank you. I need that transparency. I told Mari I was a year sober, 2 years sober, and in our area, the Music City Roundup's a big deal, and we load up and we fall in. We love Music City in Nashville, and I was there, and I was, Katie was talking about that 18 to 36 months. I was right in there, and I wasn't sure, and I was confused and baffled, and I was still wearing the streets. I was still dirty. I was still dirty. My hair was dirty. My mouth was dirty. My mind was dirty. My perception was skewed. I wasn't well, but I was staying sober, and I was hanging out with you guys. And Mari told that story about showing up desperate to see her children, but she took a drink before she got there. I broke. I thought, there, look at that beautiful woman. She's so poised, and what a lady, what a beautiful woman. And she was like me. Hope. And that's why we're transparent up here. If you got up here and you told me that, you just spilled some wine, things weren't going well, and you came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you levitated, and you helped lots of people, and you read the book, and you were like, ooh, I'll never do that again. Thank God I learned it. I can't relate. Like, I am the fall down, skin your knee, bump your head, member of Alcoholics Anonymous, My favorite promise in our book is actually in the 12th step. And I lived in a home. I told you guys I lived in a homeless shelter. My dad, my sweet daddy, died right before COVID with 30 years of sobriety in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. And my dad loved Alcoholics Anonymous. Let me tell you, he would have loved this. And he was the only guy that was still talking to me, right? Everybody else was done with my BS. But Dad knew what I had, and he, still loved me, and he kept just encouraging me. But on page 100, it says, both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we realize the things that came just when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world. And here's the hit. No matter what your present circumstance. That was my hook. That was my hook. If I did this, if I stayed in this homeless shelter, if I followed the rules, if I did what my sponsor said, if I went to the meeting, if I took the actions, if I read the book, if I followed the rules, persist, that my life would look different than it did when I laid in that homeless shelter, which I was very happy to be in. Don't think that was a bad thing. It was a step up. I was thrilled to be in there. I was like, this is indoors. I like indoors. Indoors is nice. I like that. I had my own bed, and I didn't have to do anything to stay there. And you weren't going to put me out if I didn't say the right thing or do the right thing. I'm that woman, right? The annihilation of all things worthwhile. The house, the marriage, the car, the career, that was gone, and I didn't even miss them. I'll get more. I'm resilient, I'm a comeback kid. And, but the dignity, the self-respect, when that switches into self-loathing, I became dangerously antisocial, and what that means is I don't care about me, and when I don't care about me, I don't care about you. See, I had walked away from those children, and I had nothing left to lose. There was nothing left to lose. And I would get tickled when people would be like, I'm leaving you, and I'm like, okay. All right. Is that a threat? I mean, did you need me to help you pack? What are you asking? I didn't value, nothing mattered. It was gone. They were gone. Nothing else mattered. And I had to blot out the consciousness of my intolerable existence. Oblivion. That's where I had to stay all the time. Oblivion. Because I was suicidal and I was homicidal. Right? And that's what fell into Alcoholics Anonymous on March 6, 2010. Hey. I started working the steps, right? So I've got this gift of desperation. I was in Florida the other day, and they said when grace and desperation collide. And and Ralph talked about it. Grace and opportunity, and this window is short. Grace and desperation collided, and something changed that day. I didn't want to not drink any more that day than I had not wanted to drink in the days before. God's grace was abundant and ever present, and nothing had changed that way. But something happened on March 6, 2010, and I could get 2 days, and then I had 3 days, and then I had 4 days. I wrote myself a note. This is a good idea. If you're new, write a note. This is a good idea because let me tell you, we talked about the ego this weekend. The body heals and the liar returns. It wasn't that bad. I can just do one. She's asking a lot. What did Katie say? Call you in 45 minutes. There's a lot of rules around here, right? And I can't do that. We start to balk. We start to push back. We lose the desperation. We lose the willingness. The ego returns. That's for other people. They don't mean me, right? And I have to constantly be on guard and be aware of that. I'm not confused today. Thank God for the doctor's opinion. I know my diagnosis. I have accepted it. I recognize that what I have is fatal, and it is progressive. And if left untreated, it will kill me. And there was a time when that was okay. We will wish for the end. Okay? So I get sober. I'm doing my steps. My sponsor, I don't even think she likes me. She's like this tall. She's a militant lesbian. She doesn't care about my feelings. She wants to save my life. And we start going like this. And she's not scared of me. People were scared of me. I was scary when I got here. You know, I'm still intimidating and bullying are my trademark character defects. But in the beginning, I'm not at 6 and 7, and I'm not letting go of them. Because who's going to keep Amy safe if I stop doing that? Right? So I'm hanging on to all the character defects I'm wearing, but I want to be sober, and I'm reading your book, and I'm underlining, and I'm highlighting, and I'm asking questions, and I'm following my sponsor wherever she tells me to go. I'd call her up, and I'd say, hey, some of the women here, because, we didn't have vehicles, I didn't have anything. And you had to get to meetings, and some of the women, they had cute little sponsors, cute, sweet ladies. Probably double winners. They were probably in Al-Anon too, right? Because they would come by the homeless shelter and pick the girls up for meetings. And I thought, well, that's a novel idea because I'm taking the bus or I'm walking. So I called Rhonda, my first sponsor, and I was like, hey, Rhonda, some of the girls, sometimes their sponsors pick them up for meetings. Do you do that? Do you do anything like that? And Rhonda said, you are responsible for your recovery. I never took you to the liquor store. Click. Okay. So anyway, I'll be taking the bus tonight. Does anybody have 35 cents for a ticket? I didn't have anything. I didn't have a bus pass. I didn't have a ticket. But I was used to making something out of nothing. I got a strong hustle game. Let me tell you, you needed to survive out there, and to get what I needed out there, I had to do by hook or crook. It didn't matter. I was going to get what I needed. And I read in Dr. Bob's Nightmare, and he challenges us with 1/2 the zeal. You went about getting your next drink. I'm a terrorist. If you are between me and what I want, you are in a bad place, and it's unfortunate for you. But I'm going to get what I need. And I don't care at any cost. Katie talked about being driven. I'm being driven. There's no stopping this. I have to do this. I called my sponsor one time in a little bit of self-pity. She said, the only people we're going to feel sorry for is anybody that met you. That's off the table. Clancy used to talk about the Teflon that covers an alcoholic, and truth can't pierce through. I can't hear you. I could hear Rhonda. Rhonda had 2.5, 3 years sober. She was properly armed with the facts about this book, and she was beating people to death with it. And I could hear her, and that's what I needed. I needed a no nonsense, no BS. Your recovery is your responsibility. We're only going to feel sorry for people that met you. Let's get busy in this work. Let's get on our knees and say a third step. Let's get into a fourth. I brought her. By the time I got to my fourth step and this happens, I knew I kind of, I pay attention. I was in honors classes. I'm just saying, I pay attention. It's like I'm going to learn this thing fast. 12 steps, no problem. 12 days, let's go. And But by the time I got to 4, I kind of figured out you all were going to tell me it was my fault. Like, I picked that up. I'm observant. And so I didn't have a lot of resentments, but I had 145 people on my harms list. My sponsor handed that right back to me and said, "You're not that important." I had like my cousin's baby's daughter because I didn't show up to the birthday party, and that hurt everyone badly. And she said, "Did they have the party?" I said, "Yes." She said, "They're so glad you weren't there." Not a harm. You didn't harm them. Didn't harm them. In my mind, I needed to go back to all these Johns and Tricks and men that I had prostituted myself for one more. And that, I stole from that one. I cussed that one out. I made that one late to his kid's birthday party or whatever, And she said, "Fair exchange is not robbery." Because I don't have to go back and make amends to those places, right? No. I got through 5, and at 5 I realized for the first time in my life my absolute need for God. I didn't know that in 2. I read it, and are you willing to believe? Sure, I'm willing to do whatever you tell me to do. Let's keep rock and roll. I got to get through these steps. I got to be sober. I got to build a life. But it wasn't really until 6 and 7. I just realized that the other day because I was doing a Zoom with my friend Candace out of L.A. Uncover, Discover, Discard. It's a women's meeting on Tuesday night. It's incredible. We read the book. We talk about it. And we were in We Agnostics, which, is step 2. And it's talking about this reliance on God. And the question is, if that's true, how do you show up? You mean today? Yeah, I mean today. If you have this absolute reliance on God, if you're ready to conceive, do all this stuff that we talk about, how are you showing up? How are you showing up in your life? Is this true? But when I read that at step 2, right, with 20 days sober, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. Talked about your need for God, and you need God. And I'm like, okay, sure, great, we need God. Let's go. But when I dropped my 5th step and I was driven to my knees, and I love that our original manuscript said we humbly on our knees. And that's where 5 took me. When I looked at that, there was nobody that could fix what I was looking at. I certainly couldn't fix what I was looking at. And it drove me to my knees. This complete dependence and reliance and need for a power greater than myself. And my prayer on 7 was, fix me or let me die. Don't let me hurt people. I don't want to hurt people. Man, what the... Damn. I had a spiritual experience on 7. God is real. And then, like Larry said, I'm shifting. Now I'm going to run around. I'm going to make these amends, and I meant my amends. And I hate it when people run into amends and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're making amends for. Please don't do that. You will cause more harm. I had a sponsor that told me exactly what I was going to say and what I was sorry for. What are you making the amends for? Right? Oh, I'm sorry I hurt you. No. I'm sorry I said, nope. You took away their ability to trust. You took away their peace of mind. Right? You took away their faith. So I had a sponsor that helped me recognize what is the amends for, and I went to make the amends. And my kids and different people, they do what we do, right? People are genuinely kind. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't drink. Stay sober. The amends is good. I'm like, okay, so shoo, dodged a bullet. Thought they wanted something. Like money. I didn't have money. Anyway, I went back to my sponsor. I'm like, we're all good. They took the amends. All I got to do is stay sober. She was like, you say that like it's very easy. I'm like, yep, absolutely. Just keep doing what I'm doing. That's what they said. So everything's good there. Everything's great. We're going to build a nice relationship. My sponsor was like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm staying sober. She was, what are you doing? I was like, I'm sorry, what do you mean? She was like, what do you do to stay sober? I was like, well, I read the book. Great, write it down. I talk to you. My sponsor knows she sponsors me. I have a sponsor, and I'm sponsorable. Good, that's a good idea. Write that down. Okay. I have a home group. Sure, put it down. I have a service commitment within my home group. Good, write that down. I answer my phone when someone calls, and I say yes for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I say my prayer, and the list started getting longer and longer and longer. And she said, they said, keep doing what you're doing. I stay sober today doing what I did to get sober. It's waxed and wanes, and some things are more and some things are less. But that formula, right, that service, unity, and recovery, this 12th step we're going to talk about, that is still the foundation for my recovery. And even, my Al-Anon friend, Robin, sorry, Robin. I love Al-Anon. I told Rachel she needs to go to Al-Anon. Wasn't that very Al-Anon-y of me to suggest that she should go to Al-Anon? I love it. We laughed so hard last night about Bob. I'm watching that you're doing things wrong, but now I've elevated. I'm watching that you're watching that people are doing things wrong. Like, man, the truth, the nuggets of truth we get. It's like, are you in my head? But anyway, I'm doing this nice stuff, right? And then I go into 10. And 10, nobody's harder on me than me. And I'm walking around. And Don Majors gave me a little tidbit. He used to say, wherever you go, invite God with you. Like, hold the door for God, right? So if I'm leaving, I hold the door, like, give God a few minutes. You know, if I get in the car, give God a few minutes. I'm going to try to take God with me. And I love it. Last night, I was like, okay, God, you wait here. I'm going to run in here and handle this. Get right back with you. Because that's what we do, right? But I'm going to try to do that. And Katie did such a fabulous job on step 11. And I want you to know I did the first half of 11 for 5 years. I'm really good at prayer. I can say the prayers. I memorize the prayers. I know where the prayers are. In the book, they're highlighted. They're underlined. They're dog-eared. I went through the big book study. I've learned the literature. Thank you very much. I'm going to say the prayers. But I'm not going to meditate. Got ADHD. Can't meditate. My brain won't let me. I got too many voices, too many things. I'm very busy, first of all. And so who has time, who has 5 minutes in their day to sit quietly with God? Not me. But I got to tell you what that did. So this, and I was so diligent. I was so desperate. I was so meticulous about doing the steps and trying to be sober and doing all the work. And then when I got to 11, I'm like, yeah, half. I'm going to do half. Right? And now I'm going to get busy 12 stomping women. My home group used to tell the newcomers, like, no, that's this lady. Because I can share, that's why we're good sharers. We have the gift of articulation and gab, and I can tell you about this book, and I can stand up in a meeting, and I can da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you and this and that. And so people are like, she's properly armed. And they would run over, will you sponsor me? My home group's back there like, no. I'm not prepared. I haven't grown in effectiveness and understanding. I don't know anything about compassion, love, and tolerance. Are you kidding me? You want to live or you want to die? What's your choice to make? Book told me, on to the next one. Beating people to death. But I was showing up, right? I'm showing up. So I've had a spiritual awakening. I am different, but I'm full of character defects. And, in 7 we talk about, we ask God to remove these things. Well, if I'm not going to spend any time with God, how are we going to work that out? How are we going to work that out? If I'm avoiding the meditation, the quiet time alone, and prior reflection, how are we going to work that out? If I want to go to dinner with you, or I want you to, if I want you to lend me some money, I'm going to spend some time with you. I am. I'm going to put the effort in. I am. If I need something from you, I'm going to schmooze you. I'm going to wine and dine you. I'm going to hustle you. I'm going to smile, wink, laugh at your jokes, even if they're not funny. Oh, yeah, show a little leg. Like, I'm getting that. But I've gone to God and I said, please remove these things from me which stand in the way of my use. I'm busy. We'll get to that. You want to spend some time with me so we can talk about my character defects, my shortcomings, give me visions and help me understand what I'm supposed to do right after I do this. I promise I'm coming right back. I'm running from God. I can't sit still. I still can't be alone with me. There still has to be a TV on or a radio on or noise on because it's loud in here and I need this to match this. Because if it's too quiet out there, this gets real damn loud. And I can't stand it. So I'm evolving. I'm not drinking. I know there's a God. I'm on the path. But Katie talked about it. We have to develop in this deal. And I'm running around with 16, 18 months sobriety. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I act like Tim Island? Well, Amy, turns out he's been doing it a lot longer than you. We come in and we want the Katie sobriety in, but I've got 18 months, man. I'm bumping my head, I'm scraping my knee, I'm skinning my elbows, but I'm on the path. And this book that I do believe tells me that if I persist, remarkable things will happen. And that's my job, to persist. So I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. I'm out here, right? I'm gonna carry this message. I'm beating you to death with the message. Rachel's a veteran. So if you heard Rachel, I was only 3.5 years sober when I started sponsoring Rachel. And I've got new women today and they're like, oh, you got it so easy. She would have never let us do that. But one of the fun things about finding this group of women, there's 3 or 4 of them that I started sponsoring, at 3 years. None of the ones in early recovery stayed sober. I hope they're well. I hope they found someone nice to sponsor them. But at about 3.5 years, I started to kind of hit my stride, and I started getting sponsees. And some of those women are still with me today, and it's so cool because we've grown up together in this deal, and I've watched them change, and they've watched me change. And they're like, "You're not the same woman that started sponsoring me," And we continue to grow and change, and that's the deal. That's what I'm supposed to do, right? This is evolution. This is growth and change. This is what's supposed to happen. But Rachel has spiritual permission with me, and spiritual permission is important. It means that I'm not going to put up my dukes and swell up. So you come at me and tell me something about me that I don't want to hear. My ego says, punch him hard. And I'm like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to bog. You just want to bog. If you come to me with something I'm not ready to receive, you're being mean and I'm going to hit you. That's my solution. It's my knee-jerk reaction to everything. Hit them. Right? So, I told you I'm dangerously antisocial. I'm a little nuts. But these women, they have spiritual permission. So when I swell up and I feel that thing in my body that goes, square up, I can breathe. I'm like, okay, Rachel wouldn't hurt my feelings. Rachel loves me, and I love Rachel, and I can stand in that truth. So last week, she's like, you're coming in hot. You're coming in a little hot. That's all I'm going to say. It's a little hot right now. And I'm like, all right, but step back. I want to, step on the toes of my fellows, Katie. Breathe. All right. And it wasn't until I started doing the second half of 11 and had the meditation, I kept missing the pause. You can't hit the pause if you're not doing all of 11. You're gonna overshoot the pause every time. Because I have no pause, I have no peace, I have no place to sit. I have no place where I'm okay. And if I'm okay, then I can be okay with you. And if I am okay with God, and I see us as one universal light and love, I'm less likely to punch you in the mouth. So, if I don't do the steps in order, I'm useless in 12. I'm going to harm people in 12. I'm not going to be effective in 12. This is why we do them in order, and they're so important. So the spiritual awakening, I'm trying to help another alcoholic, and wow, wait, there's more. There's 3 parts. Jesus. Practice these principles in all my affairs. Oh, man. All of them? All the time? Okay. We'll give that a shot. I'm not good at it. I'll just let you know. But I persist. I've persisted in this deal. I want to tell you guys that early in my recovery, I told you how I was crazy, I was nuts, I was 12 stomping women, I'm insane, but I'm sober. And thank you, Alcoholics Anonymous, for having patience and love and tolerance, because you guys were talking about, right? You got the new guy up there and he's sharing, you're like, God bless him. Bless his heart. Look at him. He's doing great. Hope he makes it. Yeah. He'll be great by year 9 if we get through this part. And you all did that for me because I was still twitching and I'm still crazy. But you did. You loved me and you allowed me to grow, and you continue to allow me to grow. You allow me to be 13 years sober. Thank you. Thank you that we don't have to be 48 years sober or 30 years sober or 20 years sober. I get to be 13 years sober. And 13 years sober has not been easy, and it's a long time. And I persisted and I fought for it, and don't think things don't come up. The reason I identify with Maury is because I left my kids. I was a broken mother who had no path, no road of redemption. How do you fix that? I can't undo that. The bell has rung. And then I show up well, I'm sober now. Sorry about that. Sorry about the trauma. I do this because I cannot undo that. I take women to go see their children that they haven't seen in 3 or 4 years, and I sit in the car for a few hours while they have a cheeseburger and a supervised visit. Because I can't undo that. Rachel's not the only mom. We met, Kaylin's her daughter. Kaylin was 12? So little. And I'd been sponsoring Rachel, and she was like, hey, the family says they'll allow me to see my daughter, and I haven't seen her in years because Rachel had been in jail. Because sometimes we end up in jail. And the family said they would let her meet at a hamburger joint, and they would bring her daughter to see her, and they could have a hamburger. And they said there was only going to be a 15, 20-minute visit. That's all they would allow, but they would let them see each other. But we were in Louisville, and this was going to happen in Lexington. It's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive, and Rachel lived in a homeless shelter. She had no car, no bus goes that far. She said, sponsor, would you drive me 2 hours to see my daughter for 15 minutes on a Saturday? And I love my husband. He's not here with me this weekend, but he's down. He's my ride or die. I'm talking about ride or die. And I said, hey, guess what we're doing Saturday? They're like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah. But it went so well, so we get there and we get to have this hamburger and we get to meet Kaylin, and then they said, hey, we're going to go roller skating, and that had gone so well, and she didn't fall down drunk when she got out of the car, Mari. She showed up sober, and so they said, you can stay a little longer if you want. And Rachel took her daughter roller skating. So me and my husband just sat out in the truck, waiting, and it wasn't long after that, Kaylin came to live with Rachel. And I get to bear witness to that. And somebody said it this weekend, I'll forget my miracle, but I'm reminded by yours. I can see Rachel's miracle. And these women that I sponsor, when I watch them stand up, I sponsor women with dirt on their knees. Okay? If you got dirt on your knees, you're missing this side of your mouth, you're still twitching a little bit, and you want to fight everybody, sit by me. I'm your girl. We can figure this out. All right? These are my people. These are my people. If alcoholism has taken motherhood from you, I understand. You're my people. And we can get that back. So my kids didn't want to have a lot to do with me when I got sober. They weren't impressed. They're like, yeah, it's great for you, Mom. And my sponsor said the one thing they haven't seen from you is consistency. Be consistent. So I started writing my kids a letter every Thursday. I put it in the mailbox. I sent it every Thursday, one for each of them. I did it every Thursday. She said, don't you dare start if you're going to stop. Do not set these kids up and pull that structure down on your head. You start it, you be consistent, you remain consistent. And I started doing that. It was 4 months later. Two of my kids wrote me back, and this began the road of amends to them and 12-step work. I want to tell you what 12-step work does for our families. Okay, so my two youngest come to live with me when I'm about 3 years sober. That was fun. I'm new in sobriety. They're new in adolescence. It was like the Volvo commercial. They lived. Because I thought, I'm going to kill them. And that's it. I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill them. Or they're going to kill me, or somebody's going to die here. This is getting dangerous. Because violence violence feels very comfortable for me for a long time. It doesn't as much anymore. But it is absolutely my go-to default place to be. And Kitty talked about fear, right? And so when fear kicks in, boom, I kick in. Fear me. And I come in hot. I come in real hot, and I got my dukes up. And so the kids are stepping all over my instincts. I'm full of fear. I'm parenting from a place of guilt. My husband's like, my husband and I have different parenting styles. I should have gone to Al-Anon. We lived. But my baby daughter, she's about 14 years old, and I take her to see a therapist because it's the least I can do. And I got her to taking her to therapy, and the therapist said, Grace, do you think you worry about your mom relapsing? And my daughter, who's my daughter, man, she spun her head around 3 times. She was like, what? She's like, relapsing. You know, a lot of people, statistically, people don't stay sober. There's a lot of relapse. Do you worry about your mom relapsing? Is that a fear or something you struggle with? And my defiant, beautiful Leo, the baby, she's so big and loud and amazing. And she's Katie. She like came out like, I'm here. Yeah, she's the baby. I love her. And she looks at this woman and she says, my mom will not relapse. And she said, well, you don't know that. She said, lady, you don't know that. She said, you don't see what my mom does. Did you hear that? Not what my mom says. You don't see what my mom does. My kids know if the dining room's closed, there's a fist step going on. They see a strange car in the driveway. They don't even ask questions. They're so used to women coming in the house. They're like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, hey, you know, it's Grace. This is so-and-so. Good luck. Hope you're here in a month. You know, they go to their rooms. They know the deal, right? They know I'm leaving. If the kids want to borrow the car, they know they got it till 7 o'clock. But at 7 o'clock, mom's leaving that driveway. She's got 3 people to pick up, and she needs to get to a meeting. They see me on the phone with my sponsor. They know that my ringer stays on. They see what I do. That demonstration, that 12-step work, right? This thing we do, carrying this message. You know, she sees me back down when I'm getting light and think, okay, Amy, pause. They see the change in me. They see me pray. My children see me pray. Do you know how weird that is? Like, if you're not new here, of course we pray. But if you're new here, do you remember the first time you prayed in front of somebody? This is weird. Hey, it's normal in my house. It's normal to go to prayer and meditation. When baffled, you know, it's normal to say, let's pray on it. Let's look at this. Let's inventory this. Let's, you know, these are words that my kids grow up, they know because we speak that language in my home. One of the greatest compliments I ever got in my life was a crazy girl who was staying with me. I loved her so. I loved her so. I loved her so. She got real way out there, man. She got real way out there, and she didn't come back. And in her paranoia and in her delusion, I had become the enemy. And she was running around telling everybody I'm hiding under trailers, watching her get high. And she would call my phone at 2 in the morning. I see you. Stop hiding. And I'd be like, oh, baby. How scary for her. But even in her delusional state, and even when the voices got too loud to fight, and even when the paranoia got too great that she couldn't come back, she would say, the only thing I'll tell you about Amy Schmaine Duncan, she's the same person wherever she is. That's practicing these principles in all our affairs. I am somebody different every time I show up. Right? From grade school to sports to family, like who I got to be, what mask I got to put on, what do you need from me? That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, through the program of action and practicing the principles in all of my affairs, I just get to be Amy. And we were hysterical. Dinner last night, somebody said, you know, hey, do you worry about, you know, one of the guys, Phil, my friend Phil was like, you know, you're real down to earth and this and that. And I was like, have you met my friends? Like, they you know, because some people are like, yo, you speak as we give each other the worst time in the world. Like, I'm walking through the door, my shawl gets trapped, I fall over, spill my coffee, and Alex is silently back in there going, oh, good, the future of AA is in good hands. Kramer now has, you know, we'll see what happens. But I get to do this. And what does that look like when I practice these principles? Now, if you're new, I want you to know they are not like I used to say, what does that mean, right? So you can Google it, and smart people have gotten together, and they put in principles with our steps. And then, if you want to get real crazy, the traditions have a set of principles. The concepts have a set of principles. Whew. Honesty. All the time. brotherly love, service, right? These are hard things for a wretch like me. I am in my nature, and we heard about it, right? So I love that this weekend because they're like, hey, you got to quit drinking. Alcohol is going to kill you. You got a real bad problem. You see, you got a problem? Yeah, you got a problem. That's good. You think God can hit? Anyway, that's not your problem. You're your problem. The bait and switch, right? Selfishness and self-centered. How am I going to be rid of these things so that I can practice these principles? I do it in spite of. I do it in spite of. I wish I was a nice person. I wish I thought nice things. I'm sure there are nice women and they exist. This is a constant battle for me, okay? Like, I'm sarcastic. I'm a smart ass. I don't care. I was sponsoring one lady. I said, hey, you got to get on your knees and pray. She was like, theology. I don't give a shit. You got to pray. Well, I can't because my mom and my grandma and I went to church and I don't care. I don't care. Pray. And she was like, well, you're my phone, you're supposed to be my sponsor. And this was early in my sobriety. I don't do it as bad. And I almost kind of like twisted up her collar and got down over top of her because intimidation and bullying. And I was like, the only reason I'm doing this is because they said I had to. Let her go. Pray. And you guys want me to show brotherly love. This is a challenge. In spite of me. And here's the hit. It's easier when you work all of a lemon. If you are having trouble, if you are struggling with your character defects and your shortcomings, if you keep moments of shame and guilt, like what did I do? Why am I still like this? Why couldn't I have done better? First of all, you're human. That's all you're ever going to be. Suck it up. Get over it. But the more time I spend in prayer and meditation, the better shot I got. The more natural it feels. It starts not to feel unnatural to be kind or to be polite or to be honest. It starts to feel, all right. I mean, not that the other option doesn't cross my mind first, but I let it pass. I'm like, option B, right? I don't have to act on option A. Option B, we're going to be nice. And I just want to tell you guys a little bit about the struggles that's had with me. So when we talk about practicing these principles in all my affairs, this is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is easy, especially if you're trying to do it yourself, on your own, of your own power, of your own volition. Good luck to you. I couldn't pull it off. I have to have a power greater than me. If I want to carry this out, if I want to make this happen in any way, and I can quickly go from self-will in a heartbeat, and I'll leave God at the door when I'm afraid. I just will. 5 years sober, I kicked in my neighbor's door, and I threatened to burn the house to the ground and kill everyone in it, and I meant that. I meant that because I'm capable of that. Without you, without God, I am absolutely capable. So I went home to call my sponsor afterwards, and I was like, so anyway, remember that problem I was telling you about down with the neighbors? And I don't think we're going to have a problem anymore. I think I kind of took care of that. And my sponsor knows me, and she's like, what'd you do? And I'm like, well, I just went and had a little talk with them, and I think it's all going to work out fine. I told her what happened. She said, you're going to jail. That's terroristic threatening. And I was like, no, they're not going to call the police. They're more afraid of me than the police at this point. I think we're good. And I said, when am I going to stop doing this? When am I going to be better? When will I not, do this? And she said, when you do all of 11. And I was like, okay. So then I get into 11, and now my 12-step work. Now I become kinder. Now I can carry a message. Now my ego is not wrapped up in what you do. Ooh. Because, right, when I'm sponsoring people, don't I want you to do good so that they'll know I sponsor you, and then everybody will know how great I am at AA? I'll get the gold star. I'll be like, oh, Amy, Somebody said, you sponsor a lot of women. I'm like, I don't have a good, statistically, it's not working out. I don't know if you should trust me. But like Rachel said, we do this. So I sponsor a lot of women. I tell everyone yes, and I know some people don't. They're like, I can't. No, dear, I have 4. I don't have time. Or whatever, and that's good, and you do what works for you. I tell everyone yes because here's the hit. I can tell 6 women my phone number. 3 of those women will call. I will give 3 of those women instruction, and 2 of them will follow it for 1 week. Now I have no sponsees again. Right? Back out. Here we go. Here's the net. How many can I get? Right? Because statistically, if you call it, I can't get them sober and I can't get them drunk. I sponsor a lot of women, but I tell you what, the odds are against us. And so what I got to make sure is that I'm in fit spiritual condition and I'm bringing this message as it should be delivered. Not watered down, not Amy's opinion, but what we heard tonight, this weekend. We heard the instructions this weekend. We heard the book broken down. We heard how this thing is done. And that is my responsibility. If I'm going to take a woman who is broken and desperate and clinging the flimsy reed, right? And I need to take her hand and put it in God's hand and let go. I better know what I'm doing. And so I have to be prepared and I have to be ready for that. I have to be in fit spiritual condition to do that and perform that work, right? And I have to give it my best. So I tell them all yes. And like I said, we end up with what we end up with at the end of the day. But it's the same woman sponsoring them from the same book, riding in the same car, going to the same meetings, doing the same work. And some of us get it and some of us don't. And I don't know why that is. I don't know. I did the work. I did it messy. I did it sloppy. I cussed people out. I didn't drink. I didn't drink. I persisted. Sometimes I feel like I'm going forward, and sometimes I feel like I've just got set back. My dad died at 10 years sober, and I dealt with a grief and a loss I'd never experienced in my life, and my heart breaks, and I miss him. The French say, you are missing from me. And when I go to these things, and I sit in these meetings, and I look at his chair, and I think, he is missing from me. I love my daddy. Because we shared this. Right? We shared this. And it was amazing. It was awesome. And then I think, man, I'm a lucky girl. I got to be his kid. I'm a lucky girl. Right? So, when he died, I think I'm processing grief. And Katie, we talked about these milestones, these markers, these times in Alcoholics Anonymous when I've changed and I shift and I grow, and that's what it has to happen. The process demands it. We better keep doing that. And I lost my dad and I was 10 years sober, and I had a little girl in my living room or in my kitchen, and I've been sponsoring her for a few years, and she's one of those that just always has a butt and an and. She's a little argumentative, and I have gotten better with that. My ego's gotten smaller. I meditate. I try to be kind and patient and not take it personally when you challenge me. And we had a plan, and she'd come to my house to tell me she had a new plan. I said, that's a stupid plan. Why didn't you stick with the plan? And she said, I can make any plan I want. And I said, you know what? You're in my goddamn kitchen. I didn't come to your house to tell you what you should do. You came here and asked me. And she said something, and I said something, and next thing I know, I had my hands on her. And it wasn't a fair fight. I don't like fair fights. And this rage and this grief and this raw emotion. And I ran her to the wall, and I said awful things to her. And then I fast walked her out towards the front door, and one of my other sponsees was walking in, because in 30 minutes, I'm going to host the Big Book Study. Miss AA, thank you. And the other sponsee walked in, and she was like, oh my God. And, anyway. And the shame, Bob talked about the shame, oh my God, what has happened? What have I done, right? I don't drink. And then I promptly admit that I'm wrong, right? I run back through these steps. I start practicing these principles. Where do I owe an apology? Where can I be honest? I got to be honest with myself about myself. I got to be honest with you about what I do, right? I got to be in service. And thank God that woman loved me enough and loved this program enough and had her own program that she quickly found another sponsor. She worked through the resentment, and we got to be friends today. We get to be friends in spite of me. Now, when I was drinking, I could beat you up, beat up your sister, and go have sex with your boyfriend. We're still drinking tomorrow night. No harm, no foul, right? I don't even care. But in real life, that normal people don't do. You beat somebody up and they don't talk to you anymore. It was just Friday night. But because of this program, and she had every right to never speak to me again. She had every right to not accept my amendment. She had every right to walk away, but she saw something in me that was bigger than that indiscretion. Because of this program, because of these steps, because we follow these guidelines, these suggestions, because we do this, I get to have these friendships. Like I said, I'm not a teacher. My best advice for you is to persist. You've got to do it. This is what I know so far. Right? I've been listening to these guys for about 13 years. I've been going to conferences. I've been listening to speakers. I have a sponsor. I read the book. So this is what I figured out. We got to do it forever. Just let you know that. It's going to be hard. Yeah. It's not always going to feel good. Life's going to show up. Right? Life's going to show up, and like we saw this weekend, sometimes just devastating and unimaginable loss and fear and pain. We're going to need a power greater than ourselves if we're going to get out of this thing sober. Right? Nobody gets out a lot, but if we're going to get out of this thing sober, if we're going to get out of this thing not harming others, the people that we love and that we care about, if we're going to get out of this thing with some dignity, folks, right? Some dignity. We're going to have to do this, and we're going to need a power greater than ourselves to do it. And you're going to need a tribe of men or women around you. I cannot do this alone. It is a we program. You're going to need that. You're going to need a home group. You're going to need a home group where they know you're a home group member. That's going to be important. Right? You're going to need some service commitment. You're going to need some 12-step work. You're going to need some service commitment. You want to spice it up? Throw in a little H&I. Love some H&I. We had a step study that I used to have in my house. COVID hit. And women in Louisville needed a meeting. Word got out that I had that meeting. The city shut down on Monday. Usually 12 to 13 women would show up at my house. That Thursday, 38 women showed up at my house. I don't have a big house. I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. My neighbors, they're not fond of me. And they don't have a program, Anyway, so they will call the police. We can't be here, all 48 of us in my dining room. And we were able to take our meeting to a clubhouse. A tribe of women is very intimidating. And one of the girls sat on the board, and we, strong-armed another board member, and they let us open up and come in there. And we had our meeting there, and then that homeless shelter that Rachel went through and where I landed, they asked us, would we bring a meeting in? Because the women in that homeless shelter needed Alcoholics Anonymous. And so we picked up our little South End step study, and now we take it into the homeless shelter on Thursday nights, and it's been incredible. And those women show up. They show up with book in hand and that highlighter and that pencil, and they ask questions, and they want to know, and they ask and they read, and they stick around, and they meet us early to do step work. And you know what? I had 4 of them ask me, and one of them already got kicked out for drinking, right? So I tell them all yes. We're not all gonna stay sober. And if I ever do end up with more than I can handle, I would say I love that movie Bridesmaids. She gets all the dogs. I might have picked up more than I can handle. That's what I feel like when I've got too many sponsees. They're running everywhere. That one's shitting in the corner. I don't know what's happening. I got more than I can handle. Another one biting my leg. Good God. These are the women I attract. I'm like, let's be certain. But I got sponsees, and we divide and conquer, because, I just say, hey, Rach, take this one, or, somebody, let's see what we can do. We set them up where they can get the help they need. So we do that service work, that home group, get you an H&I commitment, sponsor women, say yes. And I tell you what, there's something just real simple and magic about some get in the car AA. I grew up with my dad. Like I said, he died with 30 years of sobriety, and they were simpler times, and it was get in the car AA. And I knew the old time. I came around the program first in 95, and I didn't stay sober because, I got real busy. Life was real good, Katie. Bought a big house, had more kids, nicer car. I didn't really have time for AA. Yeah, but I suffer alcoholism. I'm the real alcoholic of the hopeless variety, and what happens to us happened to me, and I drank again. It was 10 years before I came back. But in that brief period, I saw service work in action. I want to tell you something about that period of time. In 1995, Big Book Thumper in my area was a derogatory term. It was a derogatory term. Those men and women, though, showed me 12-step in action. They picked up drunks. They took them to meetings. They sat with them, you know. Joe and Charlie just hadn't got there yet, and it just wasn't the vibe, man. The vibe was don't drink and go to meetings. Don't drink and go to meetings. Don't drink and go to meetings. But let me tell you something about the grips of alcoholism. It has you. You don't have it. My buddy Steve says when you get in bed with your disease, you got in bed with a 10,000-pound gorilla, and you don't get to say when it's over. I'm in the grips. Meetings and fellowship is not going to fix what I have. I need program. I need a power greater than myself, and I don't know how to get to that power because everything's blocked. Everything's blocked. I love what we did here this weekend, guys. I hope you recognize that God has just given you his best. Not me, but them. I'm just comic relief and make you feel better about yourself. You'll be like, well, if Amy's still sober, I mean, surely to God, I'm doing okay. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, you little winner. Yes, you are. Don't forget it. So we have to do them all in order, but I love step 12 because nothing, okay. Practical experience shows that nothing, there's nothing else in the world. Nothing. Think about it. Nothing. That doesn't mean this or that. Nothing. Well, so much sure immunity from drinking is intense work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is your 12th suggestion. Okay? I told you I get in the deep end, right? I'm going to be the watcher of my thoughts and the watcher of that, but don't do that. I'm going to levitate, and then I'm going to understand things. I'm going to be all connected. It's going to be great. I'm in the deep end, Amy. I'm not going to figure out me. We heard it this weekend. Self cannot remove self. I can't do that. The only time I'm not thinking about me is if for just a brief moment I can think about you. It's the relief I get from this disease. Helping others is helping you. It's the relief you get from self. It is the action step. There's not an end to thinking in this book. It is into action. There's not an end to feeling. How are you feeling? I don't care. Pick the lady up, take her to the meeting. You know? You're going to feel so good afterward. It's be at the front row, be of service, do the things. We do the things. I can't outthink this disease. I can't feel 3 times, different times in our book, and I heard that this weekend. I cannot wish away selfishness. I cannot wish away alcohol. I cannot wish away my resentments. If I can't wish them away, I better take some action. And 12-step gives me action. It tells me what to do. I don't understand anything when I get here. I don't understand why I've done the things I've done or how I'm going to make up for them or how it's going to be better. And I certainly don't understand how trusting God, cleaning house, and helping someone else is going to solve the great big problems I have. But you tell me that it will. You tell me that it will. That if I keep it simple and I take the next right action, if I follow that divine spark and do the next right stitch, right? Sometimes I can go in the... Shoemaker wrote a poem about it, right? He says, we stand at the door. Okay, we stand at the door. I want you to know, like some people, they go up in they're great thinkers and philosophers, and they've evolved, and they're up in the caverns, man. They sit with God, monks. And Shoemaker says, maybe they're so far away they can't hear the cries anymore. And he says, I like to visit there, but I got to come back downstairs because my place is by the door. I want you to take everything you learned. I want you to think about it. I want you to journal about it. I want you to examine it. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to laugh about it. I want you to experience it. And then when you get home, stand at the door. That's it.